Hey y'all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm gonna give you an in-depth tutorial on how I do my side part sew-ins. So I first start off with where I want the side part to be, what side I want it to be on, and then I make sure that I take enough hair out so that the leave out is able to cover up the tracks. As shown here, the braids doesn't have to be perfect because of course this is not what's going to be used inside of the sew-in. This is the leave out part, so I'm just braiding it up to keep it out of the way for when I do start to braid my braid down. So once I'm done braiding down the leave out, I take some more hair from off her sides and I braid those up so those aren't in the way when I do my braid down, because those will be used for edge control to make the sew-in look more natural. So now you see me starting on my braid down. So now I'm going to start to braid towards her ear, and then each piece of hair that's hanging, I make sure to include that in the next braid over. So although the other side is much shorter because it is a side part, so each side won't be even, I make sure to do the same thing that I did on the right side to the left side. So every braid is being attached to the other braid next to it. Also want to make sure that your foundation is strong and that you're braiding tight enough to where your braids aren't coming loose, because you don't want your sew-in or your tracks to fall loose as you're trying to sew it into a loose braid. So I'm definitely not a professional when it comes to sew-ins at all. This is probably about my 4th or 5th time doing a sew-in. So I do want to take like future classes to get better, because as you can see, my foundation looks great in my eyes, but I know that there's more that I can do to make it better. Like for example, you see how in the front my braids are more of like a rectangle, and then like these last couple braids, the start off would be like triangle like. I wonder, like, I know that there's other ways that I could do that, and I know that there's multiple different braid down foundations that I can do. So I do want to start like taking classes to get my braid down perfect, and I want to learn how to do like flatter sew-ins. So once you get to your last braid, you'll have 2 hanging pieces. So what I do is I make sure I connect one piece towards the top, and then as I continue to braid down, I make sure to connect the last piece into it. So now I'm only left with 1 hanging braid that I have to sew back into the head. So from previous experiences, I know the sew-ins are extremely itchy, so I make sure to oil her scalp. Not too much oil, because you don't want the oil to drip through onto the weave and make it stiff. Now I'm going to take a little piece of thread and just make sure to sew that last piece that's hanging down back into the middle of some braids. It can go anywhere, honestly. Just make sure that it fits in between it and just sew it right in. So once again, I'm not a professional. Never have I ever took a class. doing traditional sew-ins. Literally just watched a couple videos, started practicing on my sister, and here we are now. So therefore, I really don't know if I'm doing this correctly, but I make sure that I start sewing the hair in. I mean, I'm quite sure it's pretty evident on how to sew it in. You just start to sew it into the braids. Make sure to sew it in towards the bottom and just keep going. Each time you get to the end, you make sure you just flip it over and start at the top again. So I've seen multiple different traditional sewing videos where once they get to the top, it's a little tricky to, flip the flat back and make sure that that little piece right in the front isn't like bulky or sticking out of the sew-in, because you want to make sure that you have a flatter sew-in. So I've seen multiple videos where they sewed it all the way to the front and then they just cut it and then started a new line. But I don't know, I don't really do that. I make sure to just flip the flap and make sure that it's extremely tight right there at that front piece so that it continues to stay flat. I don't know if other hairstylists have the same thoughts I be having, but I know every time I do a sew-in, I be like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I don't put big gaps in between sewing. And then I find myself into the second bundle and it's this much hair left, and I be like, oh my god, am I gonna make it? So sometimes I be having to think a little bit and just be like, okay, let me make sure to not put too big of a gap, and maybe let me make sure I put not too little of a gap. You get what I mean? Because sometimes people only come with 2 or 3 bundles and you have to make it work. Not everybody has 4 bundles. They don't really sell 4 bundles. You have to buy an extra bundle, and most people don't do that. So I be kind of scared, y'all, but I always make it to the finish line. Always. Okay, so clearly there aren't two sides to a side part sew-in, so you will have one side that is completely finished already with sewing, which is the smaller side, and then you have the bigger side that still needs hair to be added on. So now I'm just going to focus on this side and make sure that each braid is covered up with the track. So once you get to the last track that needs to be sewn, you want to make sure that you tie the thread into a knot so that the hair won't get loose or come out in any way, and cut off any excess hair. Now I'm just going in with my Babyliss flat irons and making sure that the hair is straight and not bulky in no type of way. And yeah. Once the weave is flat ironed, I go in the little pieces of braids that I put on the outsides of her hair that would be put up with edge control. I make sure to flat iron those as well. Now it's time to get this leave-out in order. So I make sure to take my wax stick and put it on each piece of hair that I'm flat ironing so that the hair can blend naturally into the sew-in. Although her ends are brown, so it won't really naturally blend in, it does give it a more shinier look to make it, look like the weave. Once the leave out is flat ironed, you want to go in and you want to comb over everything to make sure that the leave out is blending with the weave. Now we done made it to the best part of the sew-in. Now it's time to slick these edges up and make this sew-in look really natural. I'll make sure to put everything in my description on the products that I use for the sew-in. Y'all, I love a client who hair slicks so easily with edge control. Like, them are like the perfect clients ever for me. Y'all, my sister hair is so like soft that edge control does not work for her. So when I do her sew-in and like I have to slick her edges back, I use got to be sprays. So I make sure to spray it, comb it back to where I want it to be, like mold it into what I want it to look like, and then I have to blow dry it. Y'all, that is so extra to me. Like, I be so tired of doing her hair because of that. So I'm so glad that this client, her edges were perfect for the edge control. Like, I know y'all see how good and sleek her edges are looking with this. And honestly, y'all, the key to a traditional sew-in is to make sure the edges are slicked back. Like, I've done sew-ins before in the past that didn't look right due to the fact that the edges were not done, and I didn't realize that until I started to do the edges. And I'm like, oh my god, this looks so much natural. Like, it just looks perfect, sleek, like nice. So once you're done with the finishing touches, all you have to do is comb it down and you're ready to go. Thank y'all for watching my video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.